Hey guys, how's it going? RedMaster here, and welcome back to another episode of Cards and Castles Casting Conflicts. Not too much from me for this intro, so let's go ahead and jump right into the gameplay right now.
Lower costing mulligan. It's interesting, he started without swapping anything out. Now, as much as Fear is a low cost card, I often opt to swap it out. What are your thoughts on that?
We noticed that you did in the last match. I mean, we mentioned we would rather keep Fear as just because it's sort of just a cycle. You know, you push something back, you give yourself that extra turn, and you get a draw off of it. So I respect him keeping the Fear in there. But for now, we are seeing somewhat mirror-ish moves here. Elder Steve gets pushed back, which is why you want to use that Fear.
All right, he could have used a fat bird instead.
Could have, but I think he just wanted to pull more cards, which Fear will help him do. Anyway,
right.
Without getting into a literal fist fight with you about the Fear,
I want to mention one last thing, is that it is a cycle card, but the mulligan phase is a cycle phase, so you get to swap it out for free instead of for one cost.
You're burning up the mulligan video. Goddamn.
Yeah, anyway, it can go either way.
It can. So we'll definitely see Jimba take advantage of that 2-red from the Elvish Thief there. Looks like he's going to go for a Rat King, and does he barred up? Looks like he's going to. Yep. He does barred up, so we'll see how Vesa responds. He is bringing, I recorded this, or at least started the recording, just a minor point late, so I didn't mention that Vesa's rocking the blue-green from the last appearance he was in. We'll see a very early Mordok, which Jimba is not going to be able to really do well against, considering he's only got 2 gold. And not enough to really trade into the Mordok without generating a whole lot of advantage for that. What are your thoughts on his difficult position here?
Ooh, okay. Well, first, I'm really surprised that he did choose to throw out such a high upkeep cost early on in the game when he had other options to play. And we're going to see him having some trouble with this placement of the hovel. It's often better if you have equal position to put on the top side, specifically because Mordok always summons below him.
Right. But that was not a good interaction for Jimba.
No.
The slightest. Horseman taking out the Bard, so there's no question that he goes for Hovel, leaving these rats just at a 1-1. He has the Grendel to clean up the Mordok, which is his pretty much only play here. He does generate a second Horseman, which is actually beneficial for him. He needs to, well, I don't know if he can even trade into both of them. I think that rat's too far up, so he's going to go for a Lumberjack hit.
Yeah, that first Horseman hitting the Fat Bard was really the icing on the cake for vesaven, and now we can truly see how he's pulling ahead here in this matchup.
We do see a Fat Bard.
Global buffs of his own, he's going to start storming the castle, and it'll be increasingly difficult for Jimba to come back.
Yeah, so, I mean, we see the Rat King in hand, which will clean up Horseman, but Face is just going to throw one out of his own, and that is not what you want to see. I'm thinking here, I mean, what Jimba could do, we could see Rat King potentially grotesque away one of these rats, but he needs all the bodies he can get to clear this board.
Yeah, it's a very tricky position he's in. Looks like vesaven is going to take the victory unless there's immediate action that Jimba can take.
We do see him throw out the Darkbender, which is some preparation here. I mean, Vesa's rats can't immediately strike castle without some kind of winds play here, which I don't think this deck is running. Another Armory, though, will be a bit troublesome. It looks like he's going to pull out with 3 on the turn, unless there's another buff here. But even then, I don't think his deck can clean up all these rats without Dragon's Fire, which is still a very real possibility, I would say.
Dragon's Fire would not quite be enough because it would not clear the Fat Bard.
Oh, right.
And the downside of a Darkbender, while it is a strong card, is that it can only clear out 1 at a time. And so he's trying for the Dragon's Fire, but it's just not going to come.
Yeah,
and that's going to be the end of round 1.
Yeah. I mean, this deck has been very effective in cleaning up early, but yeah, we're gonna have to see what Jimba thinks about that. Ultimately, I don't think that's what he was hoping for, but yeah, still let's go. I think we should see what Jimba has to say about that.
Maybe a joke, but I think vesaven almost needs to rename his deck to be called "Are You Running Dragonfire?"
So Jimba, we definitely saw the downsides of early upkeep in that match. Fat Bard and Rat King gave you 2 gold to deal with a Mordok. Not something I think you were prepared for.
I don't think it would have mattered if I had extra gold, just looking at my hand. The issue was I never got any board control.
Right. And we noticed there was a big play out of the Mordok too, not only generating the horseman that sniped off the Bard, but able to peek out the hovel, so you really sort of lost the board once that Mordok moved in, and I think it pretty much snowballed from there, in my opinion.
There was so much where his headless did so much work there. If his headless, like I played the rat hovel knowing it would die, but thinking that my bard would survive.
Right.
And so it was basically giving him a target. And then it killed off my bard anyway, and that just basically shut the game right there.
Pretty much. At least that's where we figured it was going to be the end of it. But, I mean, Vesa, how are you feeling after that when you've essentially pulled off a very second dominant victory with that same deck? I mean, any thoughts on how you performed?
Repeat the question.
Any thoughts on how you did?
My thoughts, yeah, I mean, you know, I just, that Elvish Thief into the Southport Captain, getting me to the Murdoch, and then the proc on the Headless Horseman hitting the Fat Bard was, you know, just real good luck for me. And then the deck was able to do what it's supposed to. You know, it's a low curve deck. I know I've got the Murdochs in there, and that's really the only high cost card. But beyond that, I was just able to spam out my units, and you know, that's just the deck played like it's designed to play. So it worked out for me.
Right. Right, I don't think you could have asked for a better situation. So, with that being said, I think we can now jump into our second game here and see if Slash has anything for that. So, best of luck, gentlemen, and we'll see you after match number 2.
Yeah.
Alright, and here we go into match number 2 now. Jimba rocking the Viking Crusader up against that latest vesaven creation. Not the hand I think he wants to see. 2 Drake Dans plus Hassan City Guard. Not going to do a whole lot. Guards could help him out, but I don't know. We'll see where the match goes. Any thoughts on what Jimba can do in this match against Vesa's deck?
Well, it looks like well, as you mentioned, he's got 2 Drake Dances, and although that is a low cost card, it is a late game card where you have to combo with something. Now we're seeing a blue-yellow deck from Jimba to counter, and Hassan City Guards are often paired with Reanimate, so we'll see if that is a card he plays in.
I think we'll probably most likely see it there, but Black's going to get some decent value there, being able to establish a better trade with one of the Hassan City Guards. We'll see Jimba pull a Lumberjack of his own, but I think he's going to go for a Rat King here, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, there's the Rat King. There's the Ratty Boy. Looks to be very aggressive with the 2 while he's at it, not really caring if Blacksmith gets in the way of one of those rats, which I think Vase is going to try and pull back Blacksmith, considering how important I think the buffs are to him, at least in this deck. Like I said, be aggressive with it.
So something that you always should look at when you're playing a Rat King or a Fat Bird is you need to plan ahead your next turns, and how the upkeep is going to alter your
Right. We
next
definitely
turn.
saw that last game. A whole lot of upkeep, essentially blocking out Jimba from doing anything of value on that 5th turn. We'll see Vesa respond with a Rat King Bard combination of his own now. That's going to pretty much give him the same position as Jimba in his last game, where it's going to be 5 gold on his next turn, but he'll only receive 2 if this upkeep survives.
Receiving 3 there. 2 subtracted from his total from the
Plus
Rat
Fat
King.
Bard. Plus Bard is 1. So
Sorry. On Vesaven's side.
Yeah,
yes.
Vesaven's. Essentially, Jimba's got the 3 gold, but
yeah.
looks like Jimba's actually considering not giving him that Rat King chin, instead trading both Rat Kings, so that makes sense. Mystic Journey is a very real possibility in that moment, so I can see the need to eliminate Rat King. Meanwhile, making a whole lot of other plays, though. I mean, Rats are going to fall back here. Everything pretty much falls back, so I think Jimba might be banking on a reanimate potentially. Now I think Vesa's going to see that and be aggressive.
Right, so we can totally see that Vesaven, from his perspective, he is most likely thinking that this is for sure a reanimate deck. We can see Jimba's defensive positioning, but he's got no choice other than to go offensive. And we know that, or he should know that Jimba's not holding a reanimate in hand currently, or else he would have played it in his last turn.
Right. Or I mean, so this would have been a much better position to grab the reanimate too, considering he would have lost all the guards plus the lumberjack. Would have given him 4 units right there, but instead not picking it up out of the draw, which is unfortunate, but it happens. But I think really what he's going to build to now, I mean, we're seeing some big boys in his hand. Swordsman next turn, Kraxus on the following, could do some big work for him.
Ooh, okay. Well, it'll have to do some big work for him, because with this new Temple of the Five Gods, we're seeing a big beatdown coming.
Right.
Great positioning from the global buffs here.
I think he's going to have
to. You know what's funny is he's going to have to... that is not what I expected. No, the Drake Dance is in play. I was expecting double Drake Dance with a Lightning Blade to clear out those global buffs.
I think he just realizes it now.
He's now cluing into an alternative.
Granted, Vesa can't push here unless he's got a Rat King Mystic Journey in hand, I think, or again, some kind of wins. He could push the... Onslaught.
Onslaught, yeah. So if he's got a way to deal with this swordsman, he can attack and continue the beatdown.
I think he wants the blacksmith to push, considering Kraxus is in hand, but Vesa doing the smart thing and holding everything back.
Yeah, he's playing a bit slower, a bit safer. With the advantage that he's got, there's no need to start making too many risks.
Ooh, and a big boy Minotaur going to show his face to meet that Kraxus head on. I do like the use of Minotaur here, just a way to block damage, although we do know...
Oh, interesting. The Drake Dance could come in very strong here. We'll see if that...
I'm seeing possibly... We got Berserker Lightning Blade Drake Dance, but I don't know if he's going to go for that. Instead, pushing now. And
how is this going to work?
I don't know what he's got planned. I think he's going to...
I think his best play here is to stop the rat hovel.
Ends up hitting the rat, though, off that. Oh, and draws a pillar.
Oh, drawing a pillar could change that strategy. For sure.
Very much so.
Now we really are going to see some units pile up, and
a great use of the pillar there.
A great use of a lightning blade will come out next turn, I imagine.
Right, and you see there, Jimba smartly placing the pillar in front of Lumberjack to catch the spawning rat, which I think is a very nice added touch there. And we'll see how Vesa is going to respond, bringing out the Mordok, which will make a clean kill, as well as doing a whole lot of work. But we see and we know what's in his hand, and this is going to be an awful, awful chain.
Yeah. Now, how do you feel about Berserker in this? Oh, and Yenneroth actually can stall out the game one more round if Jimba chooses to.
No, he's going to be greedy.
No, he's gonna take it at face value, which is totally fine.
And then you can even play the T-Rex.
It's a fair trade.
just for added beef. Throw that bad boy in there, and boom, yeah, this game is essentially bringing back to an even state. But as you mentioned, the Berserker in hand, yeah, very curious as to why Jimba decides to include it. You don't really see him a whole lot, considering that he does take a lot of time to set up. As just, it's sort of like Flame Prince, except you have to use him in battle to really build him up, and I think that's where he kind of falters, because he gets chipped off very easily.
Yeah. Now, Jimba's gotta step in a bit defensively again here.
I think he's gonna Drake Dance Yenneroth the Mordok. Yep.
That's a smart play with 10 in hand. We'll see though if vesaven has a way to deal with both the Yenneroth and he has to protect his blacksmith from.
I mean, he can protect. He can let the blacksmith go just a little bit, at least for now, because T-Rex will be frozen for an additional turn. It's not like he's gonna unfreeze it and be able to use it in Jimba's next turn. But smartly going for the Yenneroth here, making that Minotaur trade, and giving Jimba not a whole lot to work with, I think. I mean, Rat King is in hand. We're going to see that probably do some work here. Pulling another Lightning Blade off the top could do something later on. I would like to see maybe Mystic Journey, though. We will see Berserker being put in a as a defense to the incoming Minotaur, even though I don't think that's going to work out too well. Yep, he needs... Oh, even then, no, that's not going to be enough.
Yeah, this is looking dire.
Looking dire for Jimba, indeed. I mean, all Vesa needs to do is, if there's a Lightning Blade in hand, it's game.
We also see that there's no real chance of a Mystic Journey play if vesaven decides to attack.
Right.
I was going to say if he decides to attack with the rat onto the Rat King due to the Temple of the Five Gods, but instead he's so close to ending the game. Actually, it will end the game because
Sudden Death kicks in next turn.
Sudden Death triggers in next turn.
Series a efficient 2-0 for Vesa in this series here. I think Jimba might have been able to pull off the comeback, but again, that heavy beating he took early on and letting these buffs pile on, he almost had a brilliant chain, but Vesa knew to avoid it with that headless placement. But yeah, things like the Temple, the Blacksmith, the Bard, piled all those on early on. It's not going to be a good day for Slasher, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think let's
if we now go back to the players.
Yep, I was just about to say. I think we're going to.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Jimba what his thought process was behind his deck choice and what he was hoping to accomplish with the counter there.
Right, well, let me unmute him so I can get that and do a quick transition. Okay, there we go. So, Slash, doing alright?
I'm thinking I should have played first and then Jump played second.
Oh, so, I mean, it was a good game. It was a good game. I think you you had a chance to kind of pull yourself out, but I think Vesa doing a little bit of a better job kind of clearing you out with those buffs. We saw Blacksmith, Bard, Temple all play pivotal roles on Vesa's side, making sure his slightly weaker boys were taking on your Yenneroths and stuff like that.
I don't know why I played that deck, honestly. I don't think that's the best counter. I think, like, Last Will with Flamestorm would have been better. But it was one where it's like, oh, what's this deck? I looked at it, and I saw I had Temple. And I thought, oh, this might do well. And then I didn't draw Temple at all.
That is definitely true. You didn't end up drawing Temple, but I think you did have a pretty fair shot. I think... his buffs, though, started building up way too early for you. I guess on that note...
Over to vesaven, I want to ask what was your reaction when you saw a blue-yellow fashion combo against your deck?
My reaction was he doesn't have the card Dragon's Fire, so I thought, you know, that I was just going to push and that I was feeling good about the fact that he wasn't playing red.
We did see a big Lightning Blade, though, which must have been terrifying for you.
Yeah, for sure. And I expected that freeze and that it would get me bunched up. So I just tried to play around the best I could, and he was able to get a lot of good value out of that. But I feel like I was just a good little bit ahead at that point in the game that I could afford to lose out to a lightning blade play like that, and it worked out for me.
Right, I mean, you didn't take the full brunt of it. You were able to save some things like the blacksmith, which I think definitely helped you as you moved into the late game. We saw Slash wasn't able to really make a push because you just kept shutting it down very effectively.
Right. And I think one of the big things is when he played the Rat King, I had both a Rat King and the Fat Bard in my hand, and I decided to play the Fat Bard first. So that I could play the Rat King next turn, and instead of trading out on all of those rats, I was able to, win those battles. And I think that win in the early game was what let me set up, to win the middle and late game.
Right. Slash, I guess just gonna quickly mention to you, I mean, you had the good freezing pillar play later on in the match. You were able to kind of push and stake that in there. Were you hoping to get maybe more out of the lightning blade than you did with that play?
No, I think the issue that I kept on running into, though, is I didn't get any of my actual, the only card in that situation that's not a support card that I got for actually doing damage to him was my swordsman. And then he killed off my swordsman as soon as I got it. And, I mean, I didn't pull a reanimate. And I didn't pull any temples there until it was too late. And I think if I had pulled those earlier on, like heated, or if I had pulled some kind of buff card earlier on, it would have been a very different game, a much longer game. But, I mean, you can't just rely on pulling a buff card or one or two cards. It was just my support cards. I didn't have enough support cards there to keep them away from me.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it could have been a much longer game if he'd got the right pulls on that one. And when that swordsman came up, I kind of faced a decision to either push or just go ahead and take out the swordsman. And swordsman's such a dangerous card that at that point in the game, I just decided to go ahead and take that guy out, and I think that I got a rat hovel off on that turn in addition. So, swordsman, it's just such a threat that I thought that it was important to go ahead and take that out.
We were waiting for a Drake Dance Lightning Blade to take out all the buffs that he lined up. Would have been interesting to see if that went through, but ultimately not.
Well, if something like that happens to me, then I'm just going to tip my hat,
Yeah, the other thing, though, is that at the end there, as I was saying, I should have had jump play second. I saw, it registered in my brain that I could survive that turn if I played my Rat King forward, and then I played it backwards anyways. So, it was just one of those brain fart moments.
Happens. Right. You have the play in front of you, and people are screaming at you to play it, but you just don't do it.
Yeah, I completely saw the play, and then my brain went, but it's better to play Rat King in the back because you get one more rat. And I played it in the back, and I died.
Yeah, it's an interesting thought. I tend to actually play my Rat King in the spot where it generates 4 rats if I'm playing a bit more offensively, and in the back when I can sacrifice them right away if I'm playing defensively. But that's just
you mean
a general. Oh, sorry.
3 and 4, not 4 and 5.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm counting the Rat King in the.
I'm just making sure I'm tracking here, because vesaven and I are vesaven. I don't know what condition you're in, but I'm not in a good way any longer.
Am I in? I'm about 9 or 10 beers deep right now.
Oh,
so
Alright, and I think with that one, I think that's going to be a great place to throw
Two
it.
alcoholics meet up.
Jesus Christ. Alright, you know what? I'm just going to throw it out to my future self. He'll end this video properly. Jesus Christ. And with that being said, that's going to do it for this edition of Casting Conflicts. Let us know what you guys thought of today's matchup by leaving your thoughts down in the comment section below and right down there. If you haven't done so already, be sure to like if you enjoyed, share with your friends, and of course, subscribe if you are new or haven't done so already. It is the best way that you can show your support here on the channel, help us grow, and all that good stuff. And with that being said, that's going to do it for me for now. So until next time, guys, stay gaming.